Coming up on today's show, we're scaling the walls at the Adidas Rockstars.
Hawaii is the setting as we take to the waves for windsurfing's World Championships.
In Budapest, we meet the world's oldest living Olympic champion, Agnes Keleti.
And in Greece, we see how the Navarino Challenge is teaching the next generation of athletes.
With its debut appearance at the Olympics beckoning next year, climbing is a sport on the rise. At the Porsche Arena in Stuttgart, Germany, 4,000 spectators gathered to cheer on the world's best climbers at one of the sport's most spectacular events. Welcome to Adidas Rockstars. The task of creating the challenging boulders that test the world's best climbers falls to the route setters.
There is this image inherited from outdoor climbing. This idea that the smaller the holds, the harder the climb. But now it's completely different, and we have holds that are much bigger, and we work on coordination, just like in surfing or skating, a chain of movements that one has to be able to link together.
As a result of this innovative approach, sports climbing and bouldering have evolved dramatically over the past few years, requiring climbers to develop new skills and abilities.
You need to be able to do dynos and be very strong. You have to be fast, well coordinated, and mentally very strong too.
One of the biggest challenges facing route setters is getting the difficulty of the boulders just right, so that only the very best will reach the summit, or top each boulder.
It's true that assessing the difficulty of a boulder remains a puzzle. You need to think before moving a hold, because if you move your hold by just 5 millimeters, you might get 5 tops or no tops at all. It really comes down to such small details.
To achieve that delicate balance, route setters have a variety of innovative tools at their disposal.
This is a dual texture hold, very smooth on top, typically where you'd put your foot, so the climber will not have a good grip here. Then we get to this rugged area, where there's more grip. So now we've done the same thing on the wall. Here there's a pretty rugged part with good grip. And here it's all smooth and slippery, and climbers have to adapt to the new challenge.
To be able to handle the challenge of all these different shapes and textures, climbers have to be able to rely on one particular part of their body, their skin.
Your hands are like your kind of primary contact with the wall, and your feet, they kind of get quite abused. Big ones like this, if you slip off them repeatedly, it gets really painful and your skin wears down. And then you can have kind of calluses rip off, and yeah, climbers really abuse their hands. If you're skin gets really hard, it can fire off really quickly, which is super painful and not ideal if you're going to walk out to a competition. So yeah, you want that perfect balance of supple skin that's dry, ideally. It's kind of really hard to get to that level, but yeah, that's the ideal situation. So climbers' other point of contact with the wall is their feet. Climbing shoes are incredibly important because, you know, we're standing on many different styles of holds. You could stand on a really big hold or on a flat hold like this where you've got nothing to stand on and it's just friction holding you on the wall, or a small hold like this, or a huge hold like this.
A rigorously constructed 36-metre wide climbing wall provided the backdrop for the event. And with the stage set, the wall was ready to welcome the competitors. Adidas Rockstars is renowned for attracting many of the world's top professional climbers. With 70 athletes battling it out in the early rounds of the competition, there was little margin for error, even for the very best. Whilst a few of the athletes made the wall look easy, even these early stages pose an extremely difficult challenge, and some of the sport's biggest names struggled to make it through to the final stages. Reigning world champion Janja Garnbret from Slovenia topped all 4 semi-final boulders and looked in dominant form as she secured her place in the women's super boulder final. Joining her there thanks to some smart footwork was Japan's Futaba Ito. The final would see the pair go head-to-head in a race to the summit. In the men's competition, all eyes were on Yoshiyuki Ogata. The Japanese star was the only man to top this particular boulder in the semi-finals, and he looked like the clear favourite for the title, as he comfortably made his way into the men's super boulder final. One of the big surprises of Adidas Rockstars 2019 was Austria's Florian Klingler. Whilst not as fluid as Ogata on the wall, Klingler managed to unlock 2 of the boulders in the semi-final, which helped secure his spot in the men's showpiece event. In the women's super boulder final, Ito was up against Garnbret. This unique format features 2 identical routes and a very simple concept. The first climber to hit the buzzer at the top takes the win.
And here they go. Garnbret swings across the wall to reach that volume. She's not letting her body swing too much to hold on to that, and Ito falls off. Garnbret is now clearly ahead, but struggling to find her way up to the next hole. Ito is back in the game. And she's going for it. No hesitation towards the next holds. Garnbret is still stuck below. It's one last push from Ito, and she makes it to the top. Against all odds, Futaba Ito best Janja Garnbret to become Adidas Rockstars champion. What a sensational super boulder final.
When I pressed the buzzer, I saw Janja wasn't there, and I was so happy. I really couldn't believe I had won.
The final event of Adidas Rockstars 2019 was the men's super boulder. Klingler was the outsider up against Ogata, but as the women's final demonstrated, anything can happen in the super boulder.
And off they go. Ogata is the first to the wall and shows little hesitation with a cat-like move to the next volume. Klingler is hot on his heels. But one last push and Ogata's on top. Klingler falls. Ogata is the undisputed winner.
It was just unbelievable. I couldn't expect I could win. This is my first time finals of Adidas Rockstars. Right after I made it into finals, I was already so happy. In the finals, it was just unbelievable.
Ho'okipa Beach Park in Hawaii is the home of windsurfing. A destination every windsurfer hopes to visit at least once during their lifetime. What makes this spot off the coast of Maui so special are its trade winds, which form some of the best and biggest waves on the planet, creating perfect conditions for windsurfing. The PWA World Cup returned to the spiritual home of wave sailing for the 2019 Aloha Classic. Long considered the most prestigious event in windsurfing, this year's edition had the added drama of deciding not only who would be crowned Aloha Classic champion, but who would ride off with the overall Wave World title. Combining two of the sport's fundamental skills, wave riding and jumping, the final wave event of the year promised to be one of the most spectacular and featured a star-studded international lineup. In the women's competition, there were 3 riders battling it out to be crowned the 2019 PWA Wave World Champion. Sarah Kita Afringa from Aruba, Poland's Justynia Schnaudi, and World Tour leader and defending champion Ibaya Moreno.
The Aloha Classic is really important on the tour. It's a really special event. I still have a chance to be world champion, but I'm really happy just to be here enjoying the waves, and you can't really have the chance on competition to have waves like here in Hawaii, so it's always a good challenge, and looking forward to see the level.
Moreno was the favourite for the title in Hawaii, but things didn't go to plan for the 10-time world champion, who had to settle for second in the women's single elimination. The woman who brought an end to Moreno's 5-year reign as Wave World Champion was Aruba's Sarah Kita Afringa. The 28-year-old had previously won world titles in the freestyle and slalom disciplines, but victory in Hawaii saw her claim her first Wave World Championship.
The race for the wave title was very tight this year between Justina, Ibaya and I, so I had to give it my all in the final. Winning the Aloha Classic in general is already very special because of the place and the whole Aloha vibe, but then also to win the world title, like just doing what I had to do to win the world title, I'm super, super happy about it.
In the men's competition, 5 men entered the Aloha Classic with a chance of winning the world title, including reigning world champion Victor Fernandez, Thomas Traversa, who won his sole world title in Maui back in 2014, and current World Tour leader Philip Although only 25, Kuster has already been crowned Wave World Champion 4 times, and the German rider arrived in Hawaii in good form, chasing world title number 5.
So right now I come as number 1 to this event. Not really thinking much about the title, honestly. This event can change a lot, so I still have a lot to do. So yeah, just going heat by heat and let's see how it goes.
Kuster, who is based in Gran Canaria, had been the most consistent rider throughout the 2019 season. In Maui, Kuster benefited from the fact that none of his closest rivals could amass enough points to unseat him. A 9th place finish was enough to see the German secure his 5th World Championship title in the wave discipline, ahead of Brazil's Marcilio Brown.
This year has been amazing. We're able to finish every event, which is really cool. Yeah, I made it on the podium actually at every other event than here. So I made it far enough to get the title. So I'm super happy to get it for the 5th time, and yeah, just super stoked.
The Liberty statue stands tall above the river Danube, a symbol of freedom for the nation of Hungary following the events of the Second World War. One of Budapest's residents who remembers these events currently holds the record of the world's oldest living Olympic champion. Meet 98-year-old Agnes Keleti. A former gymnast, her advancing years have done little to temper her when it comes to showing off her skills.
And should I do something?
After.
Louder!
Born in January 1921, Agnes was raised under the Jewish faith. She went on to live in Israel for most of her life, which is where Transworld Sport first caught up with her in 1995. But it was her early life in Budapest where she fell in love with sport.
I was swimming, I was skiing, and gymnastics. That was the most important. I had a very good gymnastic teacher.
Agnes was considered a medal contender for the 1940 Olympic Games. However, when the Second World War broke out, her burgeoning career was brought to a sudden halt. Most of her family were taken to concentration camps, but Agnes managed to escape.
After the Nazis invaded Hungary, I managed to buy the identification papers of a Christian girl. She was around the same age as me. In Hungary at that time, all the Jews were required to wear a yellow star for identification, but I refused to wear it. With my false papers, I managed to escape to the country. I stayed in a remote village where nobody knew me, and I found work as a maid. This is how I survived.
Agnes did what she could to survive the war, whilst her mother and sister were saved by Swedish diplomat Raoul Wallenberg. Sadly, her father and other relatives died in the gas chambers at the Auschwitz concentration camp. Following the end of the war, the family returned to Budapest and began to rebuild their lives. Agnes found solace in her first love, music.
I was a cellist.
Having already missed 2 Olympic Games due to the war, Agnes travelled to London for the 1948 Games. However, a ligament tear to her ankle forced her to withdraw on the eve of the competition. In 1952, aged 31, she finally got the chance to compete at an Olympics, winning a gold, a silver and 2 bronze medals in Helsinki. Her title defence 4 years later was once again almost ended before it began.
We left Hungary for Melbourne in the middle of the uprising, 2 weeks before the trouble really blew up. So in Australia, I was much more occupied with worries about the future of my country than how I would do in the competition.
As Hungary rebelled against the Soviets, Keleti was in her own battle at the Olympics with Soviet starlet Larissa Latinina. In Melbourne, Keleti won 4 golds and 2 silvers to Latinina's 4 golds, 1 silver and a bronze. Aged 35, Agnes became gymnastics' oldest female Olympic champion, a title she still holds today. Back home in Hungary, though, 200,000 Soviet troops had invaded the country. Agnes chose to remain in Melbourne under political asylum. The following year, she moved to Israel, became a naturalised citizen and retired from gymnastics in 1958. Her love for the sport, though, never went away, and she began coaching.
In the school, I learned gymnastics, and I like to teach it because it keeps the body and your strength and your good health.
In 2015, Agnes made the decision to return to Budapest, where she lives with her carer, Linda. Her apartment is just a short walk from a new mural dedicated to Hungary's sporting legends.
I knew everything in Budapest because I was born in Budapest and I like it, and today is more beautiful than it was.
Despite her age, Agnes never misses an opportunity to show how strong she is and is unbowed by time when it comes to speaking her mind.
Why don't you tell me what you want? English, I understand English quite well.
She also remains philosophical on her longevity.
You should do sports, not only work.
Agnes Keleti has been through many highs and lows during her 98 years, but she still regards herself as lucky to have lived it all.
Yeah. The sport gave me the opportunity to see the world without money. I like to live, I like to make sport, I like to eat, and I like to make gymnastics. Itt van az ülősárga. Must be die, Mishilton Mapai. Die.
And Agnes Keleti's longevity is the inspiration for this week's Top 5. Raul Lopez Barrera, born in Uruguay, became a world champion in decathlon in his late 70s. Having survived cancer, Raul now competes in the over 75 category and participates in the same 10 events as the Olympic athletes.
Great Britain's Charles Oogster began his athletics career at the age of 85 and won more than 100 awards in multiple sports, including bodybuilding and rowing. Charles sadly passed away in 2017, aged 98.
Madonna Buda, also known as the Iron Nun, is the current world record holder for the oldest woman to finish an Ironman triathlon, having achieved the feat aged 82. She has completed over 300 triathlons and was inducted into the American Triathlon Hall of Fame in 2014.
Gary Player is a retired professional golfer who is widely considered to be one of the greatest golfers of all time. Over the course of his 50-year career, the 84-year-old South African won 9 major championships, a feat he replicated on the Champions Tour.
Leon Stukel claimed Yugoslavia's first ever Olympic gold medal at the 1924 Games in Paris. A decorated gymnast, the Slovenian competed at 7 major international championships, winning 20 medals before passing away in 1999, 4 days shy of his 101st birthday. Messina, Greece. Known for its picture-perfect beaches and natural beauty, it is for many the perfect holiday destination. It's also home to a sport event like no other. The Navarino Challenge is an opportunity for children and adults to learn an abundance of sports from some of the world's best athletes.
People can run, swim, and mostly have a lot of wellness activities. Yoga, Pilates, crossfitting, spinning. We have basketball, and the secret in this event is that we don't have instructors, we have athletes being the instructors. So the Olympic medalists will do lessons, so we have actually legends of sports teaching not only young kids, but as well, their parents and anyone that wants to, be close to sport. This is a situation that people can learn a sport and get close to see if they like it and if they can continue to do it.
The idea for the Navarino Challenge came from ultramarathon running legend Dean Karnazes. From humble beginnings as a simple race, Karnazes is now the face of an event which includes over 30 sports and takes place over the course of 3 days.
3, go!
Although I live in San Francisco, I'm 100% Greek, and my heritage comes from this region of Greece, the Peloponnese. And 7 years ago, I was approached about starting an athletic event here called the Navarino Challenge. And of course, I accepted the invitation and have been coming back for 7 years.
Through this, we got the idea because Dean is not competing to be first, which is next to the Olympic idea that participations is the most important thing. So we create an event that people can participate, try new sports that they never know.
Part of what I'm doing now at this point in my career is I'm trying to inspire others, especially youth, to become more active and live healthy, active lifestyles. And here at the Costa Navarino Challenge, we get so many kids coming. Parents bring their children, and I think it's a really good way to expose kids to the fun in sport. It's most kids are told, as punishment, you must go run. Here, we get to do it for fun.
Another leading icon involved with the event is Basketball Hall of Famer and EuroLeague legend Nick Gallis.
I believe in not just basketball. I believe all kids should be involved with sports because I think personally it will make them a better person when they get older. The team spirit. So I believe every parent should push their kids in sports, in any kind of sport. Basketball, football, anything. Not everybody's going to play in the NBA or be a professional, but to be involved in the team spirit makes them a better person when they get older.
Oh, push me, bro. I can't stand up straight, right? But if I open my feet like this is family. This is sports. This is a way to change a lifestyle, I think. And it starts at a young age. And in a world where Instagram is video games is so important to kids growing up, and I don't want to say that it's a bad thing to have, because I think those things make life a little bit easier, and if you do them the right way, they could be beneficial to anybody's life, but it's stopping kids from getting out and doing things. Where they say sports unites people, I think you can't phrase it any better, you can't put it any better. It's exactly what it is, and it has to start at a young age, and I think this is an effort to not only run an event that's special for families, but it's run an event that's going to cause positive habits for children and their future. And I mean, just the ability to be able to go to an event for a weekend and spend time with your mother and father, your brother, your sister, and actually do events together and compete. It's just a special thing. It's hard to explain, and obviously in one word, because I'm sitting here going on and on about it, but you know, seeing the kids smile and laugh, and you know, I saw kids last night at 11:30 at night, 12 o'clock at night, still trying to like stay up, you know, their eyes closing, but it's what it's all about.
I am an Olympic twice silver medalist in 2004 and 2008 in Athens and Beijing. And I've been all around sports in my whole life. So when someone comes in like Navarino Challenge and asks you to take part in this big sportive event and be a part of it, then if I'm here for 7 years, then it must be something really good going on here. Almost all the sports I can take part of. Swimming, I'm cycling, I'm also doing taekwondo as I'm teaching, I'm kickboxing, I'm trying to do anything, because we're trying to give the good example here, not just for the kids, but also for the parents, because if they see their father and their mother behaving like this, they will do the exact same thing. So if you start up their dads and their mothers, then kids will follow for sure. When I was a small kid, I was looking up to Nikos Gallis, the basketball player. And I was always thinking about him, oh my God, he's such a good athlete. And I was always looking at him and like losing my words. If these kids feel, maybe one kid feel like this about me, then it's my duty and responsibility to be warm, to be welcoming to them, and show them what taekwondo is really about in sports.
I'm a former champion of athletics, 400-meter hurdles, and we are trying to give to the kids a sense of what is a sprint, what is a hurdle, what is to throw a javelin with a vortex, what is to jump, a long jump in the sand. This is something that I can't stop doing this. It's my life, sport is my life, athletics is my life, running is my life. Hurdles, passing hurdles used to be my life, and it's my passion. So as I'm doing this with my kids, with the love that I give to my kids to make them love the sport, whatever it is, if it is athletics, it's much better, even better for me. But whatever it is, I'm trying to give the same passion, the same love to all the kids, just to make them feel that this is something unique. The sport is the biggest sport in the world, and it's unique.
We have more than 1,500 kids. So everybody like Dean is getting a medal. So when my 6-year-old boy, a couple of years ago, wanted to race, he asked me, Dad, is it bad not to finish first? And I said, of course not. So this is the most important thing for me. Giving, to people and to kids, and having to know that participation is most important than being first or second. This is what counts for me.
Seeing Drew Brees, for example, quarterback from the New Orleans Saints, come back and have such a great career after a devastating shoulder injury was probably one of the proudest moments I've had.
Orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews is one of the most important men in American sport. The monetary value of his patients' post-surgery playing careers can be calculated in the billions of dollars, and the number of trophy and title successes he has contributed to is countless. In 2010, Drew Brees led the New Orleans Saints to Super Bowl glory, 5 years after a serious shoulder injury.
It was a very difficult surgery because he dove for a ball and dislocated his shoulder overhead, came out the bottom, and destroyed all of his labrum completely around his shoulder, as well as tearing his rotator cuff. Normally that would have been a career-ending injury for a quarterback.
Doctors Jeffrey Dugas and Lyle Kane spent time working alongside the now 77-year-old.
Dr. Andrews may be the most well-known doctor in the history of what we do, and he's had an incredible clientele, Roger Clemens and Andy Pettit.
In football, for instance, Adrian Peterson, Matthew Stafford, Sam Bradford,
Emmitt Smith, Troy Aikman, Michael Irvin with the Cowboys.
All the wrestlers have had surgery at some point or another with Dr. Andrews, including Triple H and Batista.
There's been so many of them, John Smoltz, Bo Jackson.
Some of the bigger name Brazilians that have single name recognition, you know, the Ronaldos and those kind of people.
He looked at Kobe Bryant, he looked at Michael Jordan. He took care of some of the biggest names in the history of sports.
And they don't get much bigger than Jack Nicklaus. And as far as A-list patients go, the Golden Bear is where the Dr. James Andrews story begins.
He came to see me with a knee, and I remember back in my younger days, I was getting ready to arthroscope his knee, and I had it all set up, and the knee was sitting there, and I looked down at the knee, and I said, my goodness, I'm operating on Jack Nicklaus. Have I got the right knee?
After that surgery in 1984, Nicklaus went on to clinch a record-breaking 18th major title at the 1986 US Masters, aged 46. Dr. Andrews was now on a path that would lead him to being labelled as the most valuable man in sport. Today, it's still commonplace for professional athletes to have the doc's name written into their contracts, as the only specialist they will see in the event of serious injury.
I think the reason he's so important to sport is that I think all the coaches, the agents, the players, all feel like they can come to him and get a real honest opinion.
He's amazing at making decisions to help people. And I can remember at times in my career thinking, I'm not sure he got that one right. And I don't think he's ever been wrong. It seems that he always makes great decisions for patients.
A pioneer of arthroscopy in the 1970s, Dr. Andrews' career has seen him at the forefront of numerous advances in medicine. But he is especially renowned for mastering one of the most complex procedures a sportsman is likely to encounter. Transworld Sport was invited into the operating room at the Andrews Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Center in Birmingham, Alabama, where we filmed a Tommy John operation in progress.
He became known as an elbow specialist when most people wanted to shy away from the elbow. So the elbow is a tough joint. It's not a common joint that people like to deal with. It's a very complex joint, and especially in an overhead athlete, it can be very challenging to treat patients with elbow pathology.
The Tommy John procedure takes its name from a New York Yankees pitcher who posted career-high figures after undergoing the pioneering surgery 3 decades ago. Andrews and his colleagues still perform hundreds of these intricate surgeries every year, with a 90% success rate.
It's a ligament on the inside of the elbow here, and as you throw, this ligament takes the stress on the inside of the elbow with throwing. So it's the tissue that takes up the most stress with the throwing motion at the elbow.
The surgeon uses a tendon from the knee to replace the elbow's ulnar collateral ligament.
We've cut into the old ligament here, which is torn, so we're going to attach the graft right down here.
It's a challenging operation, and sporting careers depend on its successful execution. Dr. Andrews and his staff may have perfected it, but every elbow is different, and each case brings its own pressures.
Preparation is 99% of execution. So that's what challenges mean to me. Of course, I accept challenges, I love them, but don't think that I'm not taken back by them, and I'm not worried about them, and I don't think about them all the time.
Along with his practice in Alabama, the doctor's main base is the Andrews Institute for Orthopedics and Sports Medicine in Gulf Breeze, Florida, on the Sunshine State's Panhandle. The warm climes and sandy beaches provide an ideal setting for patients to recuperate after their operations. As well as his unparalleled skills as a surgeon, Dr. Andrews is renowned for his follow-up work with his patients, which includes the likes of former NFL running back Tim Hightower.
The thing that I really appreciate about Dr. Andrews is he's very hands-on. You know, he's not a doctor where he's going to perform a surgery. Next thing you know, you won't hear from him again. He's going to call you, he's going to check on you, he's going to come see you, he's going to, make sure you have everything you need.
Dr. Andrews has served as the team doctor for 3 American football teams, the Washington Redskins in the NFL, and leading college teams Alabama and Auburn. With demanding clinic schedules in 2 different states, a typical weekend sees Andrews charter a private jet to fulfill his numerous commitments.
Humility is probably the first step to greatness. And if you don't have humility, you're not going to get very far in any profession. My wife, Janelle, tells me all the time, if you're still talking about what you did yesterday, you're not doing much today. And that's sort of what I live by. So I continually strive to be better. I'm never satisfied. I have a burning desire to be better and never give up with anybody in the treatment of any athlete. And that's really my major motivation.
Over the years, Dr. Andrews has been at the cutting edge of new surgical technologies and rehab techniques, which have enabled athletes to have longer careers and recover from injuries quicker. He's also established a sports trauma and overuse prevention program called STOP, which aims to eliminate injuries in young athletes caused by playing too much. The Andrews Biometric Research Center looks into Little League Baseball injuries and how they can be prevented.
Dr. Andrews set up this lab and hired me to try to understand the mechanics, the biomechanics of throwing, and try to understand why shoulder injuries happen, why elbow injuries happen, how we can prevent them, and how we can improve the treatment of them. And he said, Glenn, I want you to put me out of business. I want you to figure out there are too many baseball pitching injuries and too many injuries that are from repetition, and we need to understand how these people get hurt and try to prevent them.
This institute is many things: a surgical clinic, a medical research facility, a biomechanics lab, an education clearinghouse, and a rehabilitation centre for elite athletes. Specific data is collected at the research centre by Dr. Glenn Fleissig and his team.
So we put the reflective markers on all the joints of the body. And then once we do that, we have the pitch. And we track the reflective markers with the 8 high-speed motion capture cameras that are fed into this computer. And the software in this computer can collect and show what the person looks like in 3 dimensions from any angle, and then from this view. We're 3-dimensional people in a 3-dimensional world, so we need the 3-dimensional data.
Andrews' 140,000 square foot complex in Gulf Breeze was built in 2007 at a cost of over $50 million. The Institute even has its own mobile units, which are taken to football games across the country every weekend. Close to the Institute is Dr. Andrews' waterside home.
And where I'm taking you now is out on the beach out here, on the Pensacola Beach, which is actually an island with beautiful sandy beaches, and my home's right out here on the waterway.
Born in Louisiana, James Andrews was inspired to pursue a career in medicine by his grandfather, who had always aspired to be a doctor himself. Earning a sports scholarship to the Louisiana State School of Medicine in 1959, Andrews was a Southeastern Conference indoor and outdoor pole vault champion. Now the multi-millionaire's hobbies are a little more sedate.
And my pride and joy is this wooden boat on the right. We use it for sunset cruises and moseying around. There we go, abracadabra.
Abracadabra was also the name Dr. Andrews gave to his America's Cup team entry in 2000. Like so much else in the Cajun's life, sailing is something that he doesn't do by halves. The main backer for Aloha Racing, the US entry into the 2000 America's Cup, Andrews oversaw the construction of 2 boats, both bearing the Abracadabra name. While the team didn't challenge for honours, it's a source of pride to Andrews that both vessels remain in the ocean today.
Somebody asked me why did I move down here. I said I wanted to get as close to the water as I possibly could. And as you can see, that's what we've done.
A quadruple bypass operation following a major heart attack in 2006 has done little to slow Andrews down. Even today, it's said that every coach in the major leagues has the doc's cell phone number and he takes calls at all hours of the day, something that his long-suffering wife has had to learn to get used to over the years.
I must say, early on in my career, I may not have had my priorities straight. My family is very important to me. My wife is very important to me. It's a journey for both of us. And I remember one year I counted up the number of games that my wife attended with me, and I was on the field and she was in the stands. And that number that she went to was 55 football games in one year. So there's devotion for you.
Andrews' favourite sport is American football. He has national championship winning rings for his work with both Alabama and Auburn, teams who are fierce college rivals. The Doc is possibly the only man in Alabama who is loved by both state teams. And when it comes to watching the NFL, he sat firmly on the fence when questioned as to his favourite team.
You know, I love to turn the TV on and see who's playing that I've operated on. Last night, both quarterbacks were patients of mine. So when one was throwing the football, I was pulling for him. When the other one was throwing the football, I was pulling for him.
And such a list of allegiances in American sport looks set to keep on growing.
He's still got it. He's still got it as good as I've ever seen him have it. I remember 13 years ago thinking he was amazing. He's still just as amazing now, so he's still got it.
James Andrews has reportedly performed well over 40,000 surgeries and shows no signs of slowing down.
Too many to count and not enough to quit. I think as long as I have good health and I have the energy that I have now, it's hard to plan any type of retirement. By the way, if you start thinking about retirement, you're probably already retired. The only time I feel old is when I look in the mirror. So what do? I quit looking in the mirror.